G'day, Stu from UAVfutures here, and today what we're going to be checking out, we're going to be looking at something in the Whoop class, so this really small little indoor sized drone, but don't let this thing fool you. This thing is actually a brushed in the Whoop class. So it's a brushed little FPV sort of racer. I keep going to say Tiny Whoop, but Tiny Whoop's a brand. This is just the Whoop class, I guess, that size. They rock on like a high voltage battery, and I'm going to say they absolutely rip. Now what this is it sounds like a virus name, but it's the HB64, whatever it is. I'll link it down below anyway. I've got the bind and fly version, but this one's going to be binding up to my Turnigy Evolution and Fly Sky, that sort of stuff. But what we're going to be doing, this is the complete review. So we're going to be sticking it on the bench, looking at the text and the specs and the bench breakdown. And then, well, we're going to fly it around, and you guys are going to see, I guess, some parts of my house because it's a little bit bigger. And I think that's what this is suited for. Some of that indoor flying. It might be raining outside. You might just want to get your FPV fix indoors, and something like this is going to be a lot of fun. But one thing I do want to say, what's better than one of these? And the answer is quite simple. 2 of these bad boys. So I've got one of these to give out to you guys, to my subscribers. Thanks so much, because look, you're putting so many comments in. I love reading through, and you guys, it's great to see you guys having so much fun down there in the comments as well. So make sure you like, subscribe, all that general sort of stuff. The official rules will be in the description down below. Hit that notification bell, yada, yada, yada. But we've got one of these to send out to you as well. So I know someone out there is going to have a ton of fun with this. Anyway, enough rambling in front of this wall. Let's stick it on the bench and get started with the review and find out why this bad boy is so much fun. All right, let's do it. Alrighty, so here it is on the bench, and I guess there's a bit of an overview. What this is, it's this tiny sort of, I guess, the Whoop class flying around, and essentially the big one, you might have seen a lot of these in the past, these little brushed FPV, little micro drones, really good for indoor sort of stuff. But the big thing about this one, it's actually got brushless motors on the outside, which is sort of unheard of in this tiny little class. And look, in the past, I'm not too sure how it's going to go, so that's what we're going to have to see in the flight experience. But as an overview, a little bind and fly FPV brushless indoor racer that should be a lot of fun. Now what we should do, let's stick it on the scales. Of course, you don't get too much in the kit. You get 4 spare props, the quad itself, and 1 high voltage battery. So this one's a 250 milliamp hour battery right there, and just a 1S as well. Anyway, let's stick it on the scales, find out how much it's going to weigh. Let's tear it off. Take your bets. I'm going to guess 30 grams. Ooh, close, 28, 26 actually. With the battery, we've got 33 grams and then a couple of props on there. So you're looking at about a 35 gram experience. So very, very light and very, very safe as well. Now what we should do, there's some pretty cool stuff going on here. So let's go through, we're quickly going to go through some of the components. Of course, look, it's in this sort of ducted sort of shape. You can see over here, you've got it should be really easy to bounce this thing off walls, off your TV. It shouldn't be hurting anybody or causing too much damage, because those props, they're really little, but also these prop protectors are pretty good. And because they're ducted, they do offer a little bit better efficiency. These props can be a little bit inefficient because look, they are so small, but these ducts do help sort of negate that in, just an ever so sort of slight way. Now, I guess if we start at the outside in, we've got these 4 little props here. Underneath that, we've got, this is sort of one of the stars of the show for me. We have, now check this out. Usually we say, I'll flash a picture on the screen as well. Usually we say something like a 2206 size motor. This is a 0603. So a super tiny little motor, absolutely microscopic. And then get this, they are 16,000 kV, which is kind of crazy. These things are going to spin extremely quick. So I don't know how efficient they're going to be, and I'm not too sure about the flight times already, because look, that's probably my biggest worry when it comes down to sort of, I say, a brushless of this size. Now moving towards the middle, we'll take the top off there so we can look at some of the extra components we've got. So we've just got 2 little screws here. We'll take these off. All right, so taking that off, you can see I've got a version that's going to bind up to my Free Sky receiver, I guess, underneath that. This is where I've got an F3, like Omnibus flight controller, Betaflight OSD. So that's great. Pretty advanced stuff we're now getting in these little sort of Whoop class drones. And then we've got a 5 amp ESC underneath rocking D-Shot. And you can see there's no protection or anything like that. But I think once the battery's in here, you're not really going to be getting too many shorts or anything like that. You might want to put maybe a bit of electrical tape or something like that if you are a little bit concerned about any shorts. Now on the top side of that, this is where we've got just one of those built-in all-in-one FPV camera built in with our little 40 channel VTX on there. You can change the button simply. You've got a little hole here here. That's where you need to cycle through. And what is pretty cool, you can see through the back to see exactly what band and what channel you're on. So you don't really need to take the top off this whatsoever. So I think that's a nice little feature. Now the only other really part I can think of on this, it doesn't have a beeper. You've got your little antenna sticking out the back for your receiver, for your radio, your little FPV antenna. It's a tiny little dipole that sticks out up the top. It's nice because this is a plastic case that's not going to be getting any RF noise, so that's pretty good. You're not going to be getting any dropouts or anything like that could be caused by some carbon. And then we've actually got a bit of a thicker cable on the back because it's made for one of those high volt batteries, so we should be getting a little bit more oomph. Now as far as the design goes, look, I think it's not really doing anything too innovative. I do like this sort of shell they've got on the top. You do get, I guess, some camera protection. I don't think you're going to be busting the antenna or anything like that, so that's part's nice. Yeah, and the design, look, it's pretty generic. It is what it is, but it's nice to have this sort of brushless style in here anyway, and we'll see how it goes. So look, designs, it's good, but it's nothing groundbreaking or anything like that. Now moving on to the quality of the thing, look, to be honest, it actually doesn't look too bad. The solder joints look nice and shiny. I think if the components hold up well, look at those solder joints under there. They're very nice. I think the components are pretty good. I am interested to see how these motors are going to go in the long run and also on flight times. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty impressed with the quality, especially considering the price. Like, it's a pretty cheap Whoop class, especially considering that it's brushless. Now, what we should talk about is the pros and the cons. And I guess one of the pros for me is the price. Like, for a brushless FPV racer, you can't really complain too much. I think for the components you get in here, a bind and fly with a battery, you're going to be able to have a lot of fun if it works. And I'm going to say if, because in the past, sometimes these little crafts, they don't really offer the best flight experience, but I'm kind of hoping for good things. I think it's super lightweight with a decent battery on here, a high voltage one. We should be able to get, this little ripper ripping around the house. It is going to get pushed around by the wind and that sort of stuff, but that's not really where this is going to excel. This is definitely, for me, I think, a little indoor racer. Well, I guess you could really set up some cool little tracks, and that's exactly what I plan to do in my new house. I'm going to sort of build a little racetrack and rip this thing around. So look, overall, that's sort of it on the bench side of things. What I want to do now, because look, it's just a small drone, this is just going to be an all-in-one video. What I want to do, let's rip it around the house, show you guys some impressions, and find out just what we can do and how much fun we can have with this little brushless Whoop size little racer. So let's cut to some flight footage and rip it around and have some fun in 3, 2, 1. Boop. Alrighty, here we go, on board with the HB64, and I guess this is going to be a sort of a first glance of what my new place is like. So I know in the other place where we used to be, the other studio, it was way too small, but here I am. This is like a little editing room, and then yeah, this is oh look, there's a washing machine. So yeah, it is nice. I can definitely see myself wanting more batteries on this thing, because now that I've got the space to fly around indoors, and look, this house is well, my other house was a shoebox, so for me this house feels a lot larger, but I can actually fly around, set up a little track. You can see the wife and the baby there, they're sort of watching it fly around, and yeah, it's great. It was really fun. It was really stable. It did have plenty of power, and I'm flying in sort of self-leveling mode, because that's how I do most of my indoor flying. And yeah, I was a big fan of how it felt in the air and on the sticks. Now the camera is a little bit washed out when it faces some of those really, I guess, lighter places, or the really bright places. So that part, look, it's not amazing, but you can't really complain, I guess, for the price. And yeah, if you've got a place where you can fly around, you just don't let a small size fool you. Something, even though it's tiny, is still got plenty of power and absolutely rips. Now, one of the best things about tiny whoops, or I should got to stop saying that. One of the best things about Whoop class is you can really bounce it off things and bounce off the walls, and it keeps on going. So those little prop guards definitely come in handy. If that was in any of the other sort of little flies, there's sort of a studio, you can see all the soundproofing on the wall. But any of those other ones that have got like non-prop guards, well, I guess don't have prop guards, you clip something, it's game over. With this bad boy, well, you bounce off the walls, and that's what I like. So you can just keep flying. Now, right here, I decided to flick it over into acro mode, and we'll sort of give that a go. I wanted to try and do some flips and some rolls, and you can see I do need to turn the rates up a little bit. So if you wanted to, just didn't turn quite enough, but we give it another crack, and I think I was a little bit more successful on this second run. So there we go. But I guess to sum it up, look, this is a great little fun little quad, and I think I'm going to be inviting Trev and Cal over, maybe some more Barbies and things like that. That means barbecue, that's what we call them here in Australia. But, have a bit of a Barbie, and yeah, it's just going to be a lot of fun. It's a really, my daughter's loving it there. She was getting really excited. It's a really fun little quad. You can fly around really slow through some small
small places, but also it's got some of the sort of some of those brushless motors give it a fair bit of power. I was pretty surprised I got through those gaps. Give it a fair bit of power where you really can rip around and have a decent race if you want to. And one thing to mention as well, a good thing about this size, the batteries, they're like super cheap, so you don't need to spend a ton on batteries. You know, they actually come in at a pretty good cost.
Alrighty, so there it is. There's my full review. I'm so used to saying part 2. There's my full review of the HG6, HB, whatever it is. It's linked down below. This little thing, the 64, and overall, well, I had a ton of fun flying it. The big con for me though is something I didn't realize straight off the bat that I probably should have mentioned. You only get one battery, and now I'm feeling that's not enough. I want more of these things because I could fly this thing all day. A couple of gates, you saw how much fun that was in the house. I want to fly this thing a lot more. So if you've got, I guess, a little place to rip around, something like this, you're going to have a heap of fun. I was pleasantly surprised, you know, with the sort of, the flight times were okay. You know, I wasn't expecting anything too fantastic, but it wasn't too bad either. But the performance you got off this thing was absolutely nuts for a little brushless sort of Whoop class drone. So what do you guys think? I'm definitely a big fan. Drop your comments down below. This thing is a little ripper. Subscribe for more FPV related content. Sorry there was no Grumpy Trev or Crash Test Cal in these sort of ones. I feel like some of these Whoop class ones are just, you know, what am I going to do? Hit them with the speed gun, all those sorts of things. So it's probably a little bit different, but hope you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe for more FPV related content. Go and subscribe to Trevor's channel. That should be up there somewhere as well. And as always, happy flying. Oh, don't forget too, if you want one of these, drop those comments and read those official rules. Alright, happy flying. Alrighty, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel and check out these videos. And I'm also going to leave a little link here to my Patreon page because I've got some fantastic Patreon supporters and I like to give back to them as well. So if you want to join the UAVfutures family, there's things like bonus velcro straps, little bundles of FPV goodies and things like that that also get sent out. Anyway, happy flying.